Well, hopefully you were able to answer the question of maybe something that stood out to you the first time you went to church or the first time you came here. And for this next kind of section for our video and for tonight's discussion, we want to walk through just some practical ways, all right? What are some practical ways that we as a church family can be welcoming coming this Sunday, and really any Sunday? And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of walk through the service, pre-service, in-service, and post-service. What are some ways that we can be welcoming? So, Rob, I'm going to start with you and ask you the question pre-service, all right? So before church even starts, what's a few ways that we can be welcoming to people that come in? Not just guests, but even each other.
Cool. Well, I would say come at least a little bit early so you actually have time to be welcoming. And so, yeah, come a little bit early and maybe park a little bit farther than you normally would, maybe in our distant parking lot over there. And then as you come in, just greet people along the way and be friendly. Actually smile. That's probably a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And
Smile, Carlos. There you go.
Just like boom. And but have conversations with those that are around you. I would say as you go into the auditorium and find your seat, sit somewhere that you can have a guest sitting next to you. If you don't take up a whole row, scoot to the middle of the row. So if somebody's coming in, they feel like they can sit right next to you and don't have to climb over you to get to a seat. Just things like that, and maybe have conversations look around you as you're sitting down there at your seat, maybe before the service starts, and start some conversations with people that you don't know very well, and trying to find a common denominator like between you, and just do your best just to be friendly. And anything else, guys?
No.
I think that's good. That's a great idea. Yeah. And, sometimes I think pre-service, we get so focused on just kind of coming in, finding our seat, finding the people that we're comfortable talking to. And I love just the thought, be friendly. All right, so let's move to in-service. What are some things that we can do in service? Brian, why don't you give us a few things during the service? How can we show ourselves as a welcoming church?
Yeah. One thing that obviously I get to see pretty often is as we start singing, get to see people that are coming in, and I would echo what Pastor Rob said about if you are able to make your way to, if you're sitting on one of the sides, scoot in all the way as far as you can go on the edge of your row, and that just gives people easy access to be able to sit in, especially for maybe new families or maybe families with little kids. I know I've got my toddler, and it can be rough sometimes trying to get them places on time. And so as they're coming in, maybe a couple minutes late, it's really great for them to be able to have a seat during the service. As I talked about in our lesson overall, just do everything in the service enthusiastically, from the heart. And whether that's singing out, or maybe if you feel deeply ashamed of your voice, I've been there. You've been there when my voice is cracked during sound checks and things. Maybe you're deeply ashamed, even if you're just mouthing the words, that people would be able to, if someone's standing right beside you, maybe they're going, wow, this guy really looks miserable as we're singing about, Jesus, the name above all names. Like, he does not believe it. It would be a great thing for us to be welcoming as a church, that we would be genuine in our worship of the Lord. And maybe while pastors preaching, that might mean you're not checking the game scores on your phone, but that you would be completely tuned into the preaching. If you're from maybe one of the backgrounds that says amen, that you would do that, not to draw attention to yourself. I feel like we would all have funny stories of times when people just said amen really loudly at the worst time, where you're like, and some of you might be going to hell, and someone goes, amen, and you're like, what? You don't want that to happen. But that you just say, amen, you'd be tuned into the service, and even maybe at kind of the end of the preaching time, even as pastor's winding down where he's talking about the gospel, that wouldn't be a time that we would be focused with a bunch of other things, like, okay, I'm gonna gather all my stuff so I can make a beeline for the door right as soon as he says amen, that I'm out of here, but that we would be cognizant, we'd be aware of those that are around us. And even something that we did at Youth Rally was just being there for people, that maybe if you do have a guest that's come with you, or a guest that's seated near you, that you'd be willing to maybe do whatever it takes during the invitation time, that you'd say, hey, if you want to go talk about knowing Jesus, I'd be happy to go up with you. Maybe that way they wouldn't necessarily feel as alone, but that they would feel like they have a friend.
Yeah, so some great thoughts about during the service. I really think one of the best things we can do during a service is helping all the attention be forward. Yeah. We want all the attention to be forward so people can be engaged in singing, in the preaching, even our greeting time. Man, it's a great time to be friendly, but again, when the music team starts singing again, we're finding our seat, putting that attention back forward, because we know that if the attention's going forward, the attention's going to be going up, and just pointing to the Lord and glorifying God during the service. So pre-service, in-service, what about post-service? What can we do after a church service instead of just making the beeline for the door, instead of just grabbing and going? Pastor Carlos, what are some things that we can do after a service to still remain welcoming?
After service, you can be intentional. Look for those faces that you don't know necessarily. A lot of times I'm downstairs, so I don't get to be up here after service a lot. But if you see someone you don't know, introduce yourself. Make sure if they're a guest that they get a guest gift, and that they get to talk to pastor, ask them if they have any questions, and just make yourself that friendly face that those people would know, and just be looking for people that look lost. Some teams after service, they don't know where to go, maybe to pick up their kids or anything like that. So just be that helping hand to them, and make sure that if they have any questions, you can answer them, or if they have any questions, bring them to a staff member, and make sure that you invite them to growth groups and just help them feel included, because if they don't know what's going on, then who knows what they're going to do next Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a great thought, being included. I know we have the watermelon after service on Sunday, so inviting somebody to come grab a piece of watermelon with you. Really, I just want us to think about being practical, and really the word being intentional and being a welcoming church. All of us understand this illustration. I've given it before, but I want you to remember being the new person somewhere. Every one of us have been the new person on the job, the new kid at school, the new student at college, maybe the new person at the church. And all of us know the awkwardness of trying to get past just those first few minutes and get through that first service or that first day of school or whatever it is. And we can all probably remember those times in our life when we had, I know I can remember my first year in public school, and I had a few people that knew I was new, and they came alongside me. And still I can recall their names to this day, people that just made me feel like I wasn't completely out of place. And you know what? They really helped me learn to enjoy school and meet new friends. And all of us can probably think about maybe the time when we were new at church and someone did that for us. So here's our challenge today. Be that person for somebody this Sunday. And as we go into some discussion, I want to ask you and your group, what would you add to this list? All right, pre-service, in-service, post-service, what are some things that we could do to be welcoming? And really think about it this way. If you have a guest come this Sunday, what do you want us as a church family to do that would welcome your guest? Does that question make sense, guys?
Yeah.
What would you want us to do as a church family to help your guest feel welcome? So listen, we are looking forward to this Sunday. I am excited about everything that will take place. But for the next few minutes, why don't you discuss that, and then we'll come back for a few announcements, and we'll be done tonight.